Dale's going to stand to the side.
Okay. Oh.
And again, the 1979 Daytona 500 helmet is freaking
If I could have your attention here in the media center, we're going to continue on with today's media availability, and what a panel we have assembled for you right now. In the middle, we have Betty Jo Yarborough and daughters Julie and Kelly and Dale Jarrett, who's going to take around the number 11 1977 Oldsmobile Cutlass that Cale Yarborough drove here to Victory Lane here on Labor Day weekend, and then also on the way to the 1978 Winston Cup Series Championship. And we have the helmet that Cale wore, which is also the helmet that was involved in that famous incident there at Daytona International Speedway in 1979. And then to my right, we have David Nidell, who owns the car. There's an interesting story behind that. But Dale, I want you to start off today just to talk about the honor of being able to take around this race car around the racetrack and what that means to you to be able to be part of that special moment here prior to the Cookout Southern 500.
Okay, well, let me say first and foremost that it is an honor to be here, but I was always told coming up through my career and doing shows and things, never follow animal acts, kids, and now I've found out you don't follow Charlie either, because you have no chance. The stories that he had were fantastic, but we'll do the best here, and I'll let you know that when Russell Brown asked me about this, I was so hoping that it wasn't in the middle of our pre-race show, which I have to do for NBC, that I would have the honor of doing this. And there are special people that come along in your life, and you don't know the impact that they're going to have until things all play out. And I was here, and whenever Cale went over the fence, so I was here as a kid when that happened. Just incredible day, survived that. And it was, as he went through his career, you realize that of all the people that I watched come through this sport for so many years, whether I watched them before I started my career or during my career and since then, there has never been a tougher, more competitive competitor than Cale Yarborough was. He gave every lap that he had to be his best, and drove it as hard as anyone that I've ever seen, and just an incredible, incredible career. But in 1987, after he had bought his team and was getting to the end of his career, he came to talk to me as we were getting close to the end of the 87 season and asked if I might be interested in a partial season, because 88 was going to be his last year. And there's so many things that come up in my life with the 88, and of course that was 1988. And so as we talked about that 88 season and then 89, I would drive the car after he retired. That we were racing at Rockingham, and so we were getting close to the end of the season, and he had not made his decision, but I was driving the Freelander car number 18 at the time, and somehow, some way, I think he had a bad set of tires or something, but I found myself in a battle with Cale Yarborough. And so as I was catching him, I literally was thinking, as I'm trying to drive Rockingham, what do I do here? I mean, I wanted to pass him, certainly, but we literally raced side by side for like 3 or 4 laps at Rockingham, and the last thing I wanted to do was hit him, and then I knew what my fate was going to be from there. But I raced him, we didn't touch, and I passed him, and literally 2 days later, I got a call from Cale and said, if you want to put this together, you're my choice as the driver. And so it was just amazing that he wanted someone that, and he told me this later in conversations, that wasn't afraid to race in that situation with who he was and what was at stake there. And so I always appreciated that. And the things that I learned about racing and, just everything that Cale Yarborough was about, the toughness that it took to go through it, because as you know, I mean, being from here and what he had to do to come up through, these ladies can speak to more of that than me, because they lived life with him. And I know he battled every single day till his very end. And that's not surprising to any of us that knew him. But, that could have been and probably was the defining moment of whenever I was given a good opportunity to get in a car with a good sponsor and showcase some of the things that I could do, and my career fortunately moved forward from that. So I have nothing but utmost respect for him, and again, how much it changed my life, professional life, and moved my career forward.
Well, Betty Jo, Julie, Kelly, Cale was so special to Darlington Raceway, and we knew that Darlington Raceway held a special place in Cale's heart. How great is it to be able to see him honored in this way, seeing that car on the racetrack today before this historic Southern 500?
You want to talk? We just want to thank NASCAR for doing this, and thank Darlington for doing this, and I think this is going to be a great honor, a great way for us to kind of put finally have an end to the battle we went through with him. But I think this is great, and we appreciate it all. And as he would have said, it's been a sweet ride.
David, you're the owner of this car now, and there is a special story about how you came into possession of this race car and the history. This is not just a Winston Cup winning championship race car, but it's also won a vintage championship as well. So if you wouldn't mind coming up and explaining the history of this car from your perspective.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks for inviting me. Betty Jo, great to see you again. And Dale, drive the car. Drive the car as hard as you want, okay? Drive it. Give him what he deserves. I came about the car in 2012, and it was really interesting. It was right place, right time. I bought the car, and I, of course, looked up on this thing called the internet and found out that Cale owned a dealership, a Honda dealership. So I called down there and said, "Can I speak with Cale Yarborough, please?" And they said, "Who's calling?" I said, "My name's David Nidell. I just bought one of his cars, and I'm going to take it out of the museum, and I'm going to put it back on the racetrack." And they said, "Well, he's not in till Tuesday. You call him Tuesday morning first thing. He gets around 7. At the time, I was actually living overseas. I was living in Europe. I called him at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, which was, God, I don't even remember what time, European time. But he was on the phone in 10 seconds. "Yeah, I hear you're going to take my car and put it back on the racetrack." And I said, "Yep, that's what I'm going to do. I vintage race. We're going to have a blast with it." And he said, "Why don't you come down to my farm?" And I booked a ticket, and I flew from Amsterdam down to visit you guys the next day. And everyone thought I was crazy. I was like, "Yeah, I'm going down there." And I spent half a day there, and Cale showed me his whole collection, what he had. And in fact, I bought another car from him then as well. He sold me the Pepsi 400 winner from '96, driven by John Andretti, which at the time was the fastest NASCAR race on history. So it's pretty cool. And then, of course, you insisted that I stayed and ate dinner, which I thought was just amazing. It was just a highlight of my life. So anyway, that's the story about the car and how kind Betty Jo and Cale were to me. And we raced the car really pretty hard on the vintage circuit for about 4 years. And it won a Enduro championship in 2013, I believe. My mechanic, Scott Young, got it all prepped up, and we took it out. And we probably ran it 7-8 events a year for 3 or 4 years before I got a little busy with work, and we had to put it away for a little while.
Well, thank you for making that car available to us today. This is an incredible honor to an incredible driver and human being in our sport. Well, we have time for a couple questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We're going to start with the Godfather in the back.
DJ, as you know, we've got a brief but spectacular history of former series champions driving pace laps and refusing to leave the racetrack when it was over. Anything to worry about from you tonight?
Nope, and I know that we're mostly speaking about the king, and I've never been confused with being anywhere close to a king. So, no, I'll do what Russell Branham tells me. That is first and foremost on my mind, and that is exactly what I will do because we want to get to the main show. You know, this is going to be an incredible evening, and to have this, you know, as it before the Southern 500, I mean, it stands on its own. It doesn't need to be a special place in the schedule at any time because, you know, it's the hardest race that you will compete in as a race driver. So I'm anxious to see how they handle the pressures of it and everything that goes on. So my job will be over quickly. I'm pretty sure I'll be sweating a lot anyway, but yeah, looking forward to doing this and to honor Cale and then find out who's going to get that final spot in the playoffs.
Do we have additional questions? Well, Dale, good luck out there tonight. Have fun in the car. Julie, Kelly, Betty Jo, thank you again for being a part of this and sharing Cale with us for all those years. So thank you again. And David, thank you, sir, for the car. And we're going to have a lot of fun tonight with the 75th Annual Cookout Southern 500. Thanks again. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.